Okay, thank you for being so quick there. I appreciate it. So our first panel is called Solving the Customer Equation. So it's just going back to what I was saying earlier regards acquiring customers. We're just going to have a bit of a conversation about it now. Got a few questions lined up. We'll start though by going around and just, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, so my name is Joshua Webb. I'm the CEO of a software company called Calculate. So we're a 3D size guides that can get plugged into your self-storage website. Before that though, my background is the marketing manager of an Australian mobile self-storage company called Taxibox. And that's kind of what brought me to the software and eventually led me to the seat here.
Hello, my name is Mark Basham. Part of Engage Management Services. I was set up back in 2009 purely as a management development company for self-storage. Tend to fly a little bit under the radar, but it dawned on me this morning when I was kind of looking at what we've done over the last couple of years, that we've had our 1 million square foot developed next year. So we operate across 7 different brands, currently monitor and run about 14 different sites. Everything from traditional 60,000 square foot facilities to the smaller sort of unmanned facilities that we're working with Gavin and Stora on.
And my name is Sarl. I'm senior product designer at Stora. So I'm really interested in the sort of customer discovery process, finding out how you guys actually run your businesses now. You may have seen I've spoken to a few of the guys in the room here, and I hope to speak to a lot more of the people here and try and understand much more about how self-storage operates, how we can sort of bring the Stora platform and innovate on some new features that will help you progress your businesses and run more efficiently. So that's myself, Carl.
Hey, thanks. Good wealth of experience in the room. So, first question, I'm gonna try to keep this fair. Mark, I'm going to get you to answer this one first, and obviously you guys can chip in whenever. So why do you think customers choose one operator over another when they're looking for storage?
I don't think it's particularly complicated. I think when you look at the data over the number of years, location is primary. I think we always go off the basis that customers won't travel past a good facility to get to another one, even if it's, save a couple of pounds, because what we offer is a need-based product, and it's not convenience. So really people will always be choosing it. It's a good facility, the one that's the most convenient and easy for them to use. That's about as short as I can make.
Josh, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think location is certainly key. I think if you were to, not just with self-storage, if you were to browse on anything, chances are if you're on a desktop, you probably got, you're searching in Google, first 4 or 5 results you might get up to separate tabs. If you don't like what you see on the first one, close it down, get to the next one. Don't like it, close it down, get to the next one, until you find what you're actually looking for. So it's kind of browsing in a digital sense, so the better the seamless the website, the more information you get, that's what's likely going to lead you to a conversion.
What about security, on-site security? And the storage facility, how being secure?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd say that's probably a reasonable assumption that we want to see how secure is the facility, and hopefully at the front end you're pushing that message forward. So definitely security would be up there.
Okay. Second question. What are some of the things that you feel operators can do to maximise their conversion rates? And we're talking about really from when they hit the website, they go on and see what's available to converting them into a customer from that point. What conversion techniques do other industries use that perhaps in the self-storage industry we could make use of as well?
I'll jump in on this one because this is kind of my realm, as it were. So I still work with the Australians at Taxibox, so basically just manage the website. It's conversion rate optimization that we're trying to maximize with this. So I think the main point is that you want to have it as frictionless as possible and give as much information at the right time as you can with your website. So it's not saying you need to bombard them with information right straight off the bat, but you need to see where the friction points are of your site, see where people are dropping off, and see what information you can give at those certain points. If you're getting more reservations coming through over the phone than you are on your website, I would say that that's a problem. I'd say your website should be doing the heavy lifting here. It's where the most people are going to be looking at your facility, at your company. So you should be putting that information up front as much as you can. So if there's common questions that you're being asked on phone leads, why not put that information on the front? If you're a 24-hour facility, why are they to call you up to find that out? That should be at the front. If you're the most secure in your area, if you're the cheapest in your area, if you're not the cheapest, what else have you got that you could be putting onto your website that's going to reassure people and make them feel confident enough to actually give you the card details on the website?
Add in there as well. I mean, traditionally we're known as being pretty clunky. I mean, if you go back sort of 10 years or even 5 years before the pandemic sort of all struck us all, how we move people in, how we reserve them, it's incredibly clunky. I mean, at times we sit and stare at each other in the office and kind of go, why are we making this so difficult? You know, to fill out information forms, to wait for somebody to call you back, even though they don't want to speak to you, that's why they sent out the form on the website. So anything you can do to remove that friction is really, really important. And I think also that over the last couple of years, awareness of our products has really taken some steps forward. Whereas if you wind back, say, 8 years, the majority of people haven't used self-storage before. So what we think they need to know is completely different what they actually need to know. And I think that's one thing that was sort of really kind of learned from is that when you work within self-storage, you think it's all about selling them square foot, or actually at the end of the day, they just want a convenient solution for a private problem they have. Because everything that they're doing is stress related, no matter what it might be, business, personal. So we always think it's about trying to make the things streamlined as possible, as easy as possible for people.
Yeah, and for me, the phone call thing that the guys brought up here is really interesting. It's an interesting area that I'm trying to collect a wee bit of data on at the minute. You know, what do people ring up for? You know, why are they on the phone to you? And Joyce's product there is, you know, ties in the key thing that people are looking for, how much space they actually need. You know, that seems to be a key one. So how do we, for us at Stora, it's really around how do we innovate at the front end here on the website end to drive that information up front so that they don't have to use the phone as much, you know. Maybe there's things missing there that still feel they have to call up. And maybe there's people that still want that wee bit of support, you know, just that wee bit of connection to sort of make them feel like, you know, everything's in place and, you know, I'm going to get my stuff over and I can utilize this because they're very new to the area, you know.
That's actually a bit of a plug. That's one of the reasons about a year ago we set up another company called Inquiry Plus, because we realized that the amount of people who are actually taking storage, especially for the first time, they think nobody has any idea what square footage is. It's a real bizarre historic carryover that we sell people square footage, but we're not selling business to business. We're selling to a retail product and we're selling to individuals that go into Tesco's and Sainsbury's because selling square footage, which is quite strange. But people who are using it for the first time, if you look at people who inquire, they just want the cheapest price, so they just want 10 square foot, and they should have a big truck and need 80 square feet. So people don't necessarily understand what we can supply them and actually what they need. So we set up Inquiry Plus, which is a pure self-storage inquiry handling system whereby you speak to people via WhatsApp, via text, via phone, via email, whatever method they want. Because traditionally we still have this problem whereby somebody sends you an email and you pick up the phone and the first thing they're going to do is not answer your call. Because why? I mean, how many people put the number in when you're filling a format that's correct? You just don't. I don't want to be hassled. So if you contact them in the way they want to be spoken to, you have a much better chance of them actually converting and turning to customers. So I think we're still a couple of years behind, I think, collectively as an industry about how we deal with people. And I think, you know, prices online, all these kind of things are coming. But you've got to speak to your customer the way they want to be spoken to.
Sorry, I can just jump in as well. So I've just come back from the US ISS conference, and I think it's quite well known the US market is far more kind of sophisticated in terms of the audience, in terms of them knowing what they want from the product. There's a lot said about the UK and European market. There's a bit more hand-holding, a bit more kind of information that needs to be delivered. I listened to Dean Booty's podcast recently, where he's talking about this and how he prefers the customer to call up and kind of go through the conversation. My counter argument to that would be you're going to get far more people on your website than you are calling you up. No one's going to call you up to say, I don't really like talking to people on the phone, so I'm not going to book with you. they're just going to drop off your website. So if there's information you need to give to the customer, don't limit it to being on the phone. Give it on your website. Give them that information there. You're going to get far more bookings overall there than if you just reserve it for those that actually bother to pick up the phone and give you the phone call.
I think that's one of the key things I'm noticing as well when I speak to operators is that there's a lot more work being done by people than there really needs to be, I think, still. Especially with the introduction of space calculators and everything like that. I think probably the large majority of people aren't using space calculators at the moment in terms of giving customers solutions to figure out what space they need. And the consensus is generally people don't have a clue what a 25 square foot unit can store. So yeah, I think giving. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we're a very happy customer use for a couple of brands, right? It works very well. But I think it's a question of time. If you look at sort of within say the 25, you look at people who are repeat users, they don't need to be explained why self-storage is the best success, right? They know they had 50 before, they may want 50 again. So it's a question about, as the awareness goes up, the customer becomes more sophisticated, and that interaction just will back away over time.
Yeah, one of the other questions is, we can ask that so many people just don't even know about the concept of self-storage. They've never even heard about it. So how do we, as people in the industry, I guess, educate the general public about the existence of self-storage and the benefits it brings? I mean, I've never used self-storage. I think it's a great industry, and I was only introduced to it probably 3.5 years ago. So yeah, the question is, what more can we do to educate people?
So I think on that one, not least you can always calculate, and that will help save you a lot of time. We recommend it. I also like to thank the SSA and Rennie for doing my marketing for me. There's a stat in last week's report showing that only 9% of customers actually knew how much space they needed. So thank you for that one. You can see that in the marketing email about pretty soon, I'm sure. But I think in terms of what we can do to educate more broadly and not just about people coming to the website, my recommendation on a similar boat, I've never used storage myself. Try and utilize those of your customers that you already have. So with TaxiBox, we do a lot of research and a lot of data gathering on the people that do come to our website and do book and then move out. And we've got a big database of past customers that we can ask them about their experience. We can ask them how long did you intend to store for versus how much did you actually store for. We also have the third column, which is we know how long you actually stored for. We can see where the differences lie. So that can help us in terms of what we then need to do with the marketing. Do we need to be showing it's a short-term option for customers when really we're trying to push towards the long-term? The other audience that we'll research a lot are the people that do come to the website, give us their lead details, and then drop off for whatever reason and don't convert. They're not just dead emails to us, they're not just people that have moved into a marketing campaign spam. There's value in that. There's value in learning why they didn't book with us. Did they book with a competitor? If so, why? We can find out if they were just tire kicking, if they're thinking they're needing it, why they might be needing it. That has really helped to shape our paid campaign, email marketing, our blog content is all honed around those people that come to the site and then interact with it in some regard. Whether they're booked or not, there's still data there, there's still information that we can gather, and then we can push that into the marketing.
Anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, what Joyce is touching on there is a key component of the software market. Product-based software has developed over the years, which is sort of customer discovery. And I think as your facilities get more automated, there's a big fear of, what do we use our staff for? How is that going to wrap up? What about our sales team, etc. And I mean, I think that those type of things can be repurposed in other ways. You can be sent people out to find out more about your customers. This type of process also works, for physical businesses too. So how do they go about purchasing the storage? Getting maybe more involved in the community and running the events, things that maybe happen. That can help to educate them about the utilization of self-storage, etc. So there's definitely opportunities there, for advanced learning in the space.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there because I was took my two young boys to rugby the other day, and there's big banners all around the rugby pitch with storage sites advertising there. And I think I think it's using those opportunities as well. There are other storage companies that sponsor local football teams, so it's on the shirts and everything. So I think it is a community business, self-storage. So it's I think thinking outside the box a bit more and doing things that perhaps others aren't doing in terms of advertising. I'm just going to talk about pricing on websites now. I mean, for us, it's a big thing. Stora, booking and payments online, and it follows the whole transparency on websites and everything like that as well. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's your general opinion about showing prices online? Because it's a very mixed view.
Yeah, no, I think it's coming, and you know, it's a weird one. I mean, you know, we obviously when we deal with some of our teams in stores, we're competing with guys who literally can be 50 feet away. I think Christian's store is about 25 feet away in the certain car park, so the competitor. And I think it's about if you don't know what separates you from your competitor, right, then you probably have more to worry about than just being completely open about pricing. I think you need to understand your own business first and what sets you apart, what makes you different, and why you're better than your competitor. And if it's service, access, cleanliness, it can be anything really because we're a need-based product. Then you should have no problem standing behind your prices. And yeah, we're going to get to that stage. I totally agree with you about, so we've been talking about push-pull pricing for decades, and if you see the amount of wish lists for like Radical and SiteLink and everything else about can we get control of the yield management side of the business, that's so important. So yeah, it's coming, and it's going to be, because at the end of the day, we're getting towards a little bit of a commoditization of what self-storage is. So you're going to be going through these processes like the customer's going to want it, so that's where we're going. I mean, you know, you can say you don't want it, but if the customer's asking for it, that's where you kind of have to go embrace it. It's very similar to the internet. I mean, maybe back in the days when it was dot, 111, AAA in the yellow pages. Well, you know, everybody had to do that in the yellow pages to get on the first page, but then everybody went online. You can keep doing that in the yellow pages if you want, but you don't get anywhere. So.
Now, if you look at the US market, it's a lot more mature than the UK market. The vast majority of operators there all show their prices. And yeah, I've no doubt it will follow, and you can already see that change happening now.
One thing I can add as well from experience with TaxiBox, so one of the first things I did when I first joined was looked at the user flow we had for our Google Ads journey versus the Google Connects and the other platforms that we have. So every time we had a Google click, it would go to a certain page on our website because we wanted their details. If we spent anywhere between $2 to $15 to get that click onto the website, we wanted something from that, so we wanted their contact details straight away before they drop away, and then at least we can chase them and help them. So we had this form, and that was before they could see any information really about the website or get to any of the pricing stages. I turned that off in my first couple of weeks. We lost about 600 leads in the first 2 months. I didn't get fired, which was great, because bookings went up overall. Because what we were doing by putting that lead form there before we were showing pricing, we were alienating those people that didn't want to sacrifice their details when we weren't giving them anything in return. So they were just dropping off and going to someone that did have pricing online. And then also those leads that we were getting through were awful because they hadn't seen the pricing, so they were just tire kickers that were just doing it for the sake of doing it. It was slowing down our sales process, or the follow-ups we were doing were leading to nothing. It was a very low conversion rate. So we actually found that turning that off, while it was a heavy hit, it was something that we needed to do, and we got the benchmark for it pretty quickly. So I understand if you've already got a pipeline in place, which takes those lead details and does hide your pricing, you know, restrict your pricing, or however you do to get pricing on your website if you do display it. It was a gamble for us and it paid off. That's to say, you know, it might not happen for you, but it is something you can test very easily, and you can turn it on for a period where you can have pricing for 50% of your audience and not show for 50%. Check it out. Don't just assume because you've got this setup running now that it's the way that's going to lead you to the most bookings, because it wasn't for us.
Just on that, I'm probably going to get shot by Tom because it's been a hard week. I forgot. So about 2 years ago, we turned one of our stores to online pricing. It was Hills over in Colchester. And I should remember this. It's not good. Yeah, so we went down that route because we had the flexibility to give it a try. The owner said, let's give it a go. We wanted to set them apart from storage mart, etc. that were in the town. So all the prices went online. First thing that happened, obviously, is you drop all your inquiries supposedly. You drop all your inquiries supposedly, but really all that happens is you pre-qualify your leads. That's all that happens. So the quality of your conversions is really good. You're not wasting loads of time in the staff there by following the follow-ups that A, they don't want to do because they can never get hold of them. B, that you're wasting loads of time paying them to do so. And your quality goes up. So their conversion rate wasn't really a conversion anymore because it's a qualified lead, we would say. Went up a lot, and the quality of the customer went up a lot. So, yeah, should add that in, we've done it.
I mean, well, for us, from a software perspective, I mean, we're much more about efficiency and transparency. You know, so we like the fact that you can just come and see the price and book. And for me, I think hiding your prices is a symptom of something else that's wrong. There's another problem lying below this here. Whether it's, you know, you're not messaging yourself, you're not pushing your value-based statements out, you know, or your unique selling points, as Mark touched on earlier. You know, so there's all these elements that seem to bubble beneath this decision to hide them so that you can capture the lead, which, you know, I think you can do both. You know, you can push them through this funnel and also support them on the way through the funnel, you know, so offering your phone number up front, you know, letting them contact you through multiple ways, whether it's WhatsApp or some of these other services that you can place onto the site, or using things like intercom. So they've got a channel to ask the questions that they need to ask at that particular time whenever they need them answered, you know. And that type of support and also the transparency, I think, will definitely improve the capture of customers in the long run, you know.
I think there's one thing. I think it's also as a reflection of our industry starting to mature. So if you think back, I keep going back, so if you go back 10 years, for example, looking at sites and looking at locations, you mentioned sort of volumes of population and stuff. You know, there was a time when nobody wanted to go to a town that had less than 100,000 people. And that's because I think that there was a sort of, we're still quite a young sector by any stretch, so any kind of lead you're protecting and looking at your competitor, you know, because the last thing you wanted to do is pass the lead down to them. Whereas I think eventually we're probably going to get to the point where you're looking at it like the hotel sector, where you get into a hotel, it's full, but we're going to get on the phone and send you down to the hotel down the road, because we're kind of all in this together a little bit. I cut my teeth working behind the reception desk years ago in a self-storage facility where the most important thing was to preserve the customer. And we're going to tell them about insurance, and we're going to tell them about padlock. It's about getting them over the line, getting them in. Whatever you do, you weren't going to mention your competitor. That's such a sort of juvenile industry type thing. In industries, we've done so much more than that, where you're looking at smaller facilities in smaller towns because you're more confident about what we offer. So we're definitely going to go down that route where, as I said, I think it's about understanding, being confident about yourself, etc.
I guess part of the issue is that if you're new to storage, I think an element of paranoia seeps in as well, from who I've spoken to, in terms of, you know, you worry that your lack of experience is possibly affecting your sales, and then you know, if you have been transparent and show pricing, say Stora or another up the road isn't, then you start panicking and think, oh, the same price is what we get. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of that possibly too.
I mean, if you want to be the lowest price in the game, you know, then do the research and put the lowest price up, you know, and be transparent about it, you know, there's probably no harm in going that route either, you know.
Just on the sort of larger competitive thing, I mean, all our customers are competing with, you know, the big suppliers in the UK. And really, you know, there's so many things that they're doing the marketing for you, right? They're spending all these millions to promote self-storage for you. All you've got to be is the sort of local, because it's a local business, we touched on before, you know, these are local businesses, that's why they work. So if you're the local provider that people can trust and, you know, let Big Yellow, Safe Store Access, Storage Mart, whoever it is, let them pump all the millions into, you know, promoting self-storage and making awareness for everyone. But we shouldn't be scared of the larger operators because they tend to do the same thing we're all doing.
And that's it. I think sometimes it's potentially a mistake people make is they start copying the bigger operators, doing the same things, potentially making the same mistakes again. So it's trying to be innovative, and that's what this is all about, really. I'm just gonna finish the panel by asking what do you think operators are doing at the moment that's maybe being a bit complacent potentially? How can they avoid becoming complacent in the way they're operating?
I think to kind of touch on that one, especially with the American side of things, when we're talking to operators out there, I imagine that for a large proportion of you out there, it's probably you're doing quite well capacity-wise, especially with the last sort of 12, 24 months. Capacity is probably pretty good, and there's maybe a bit of lethargy in terms of the sort of things about innovation. You're thinking to yourself, well, if we're already at 90, 95, 100% capacity, what's the point in proceeding and carrying on? My kind of counterpoint to that would be to be looking at your churn rate. Just because you're 100% now doesn't mean in 6 months' time, a competitor could open up around the corner and take off your audience. So you're going to need to be operationally very slick, as much automation, making sure it's a really positive journey so that people don't want to drop ship. So yes, you might be doing very well at the moment and having it running on a very good wave, but my main kind of focus point would be to make sure that that isn't kind of a statement in 12 months' time that we were doing 5 minutes, so we didn't look at other options, look at other technologies, look at operational processes, things that we could be doing to improve.
Yeah, definitely second that. I mean, there's a lot of people coming into the sector. Many can, back that up. There's a huge amount of interest. Institutional money is now coming to the sector, has been for the last couple of years. So there's a lot of facilities opening. There's a lot of facilities opening next year. So it's really going back to being confident why you're different and why your business is the one that customers should come to. I think one thing that we're finding with some of our clients, those are the ones who actually pay for these facilities and get them off the ground, is that they kind of think the last couple of years in our sector is the norm. So anybody that we've looking for in the last couple of years have just had an absolute gangbusters 2 years with the pandemic, but that's not normal. We have to look to how 2017, 18, 19 was, and that's sort of more traditional seasonality. So I think we're starting to see a little bit of complacency about people buying sites, bidding on sites before full feasibilities are done, because they just think, yeah, it's going to be like that going forward. Well, it's not. We're very lucky to be in a good sector that's done very well and historically is very resilient, but you don't know what's coming out of coming around the corner. So always thinking forward is super, super important.
Now, from a software perspective, what do you think the next 10 years looks like, I suppose, in self-storage?
Well, I'd like to touch on that last question first, if I could, because one of the things that I'm new to the self-storage per se, so I'm learning a lot as I go here. And one of the interesting things for me is the maximizing your revenue, this sort of price increase thing that happens whenever you've got occupancy, and what drives that, and I don't know if operators are being complacent about it. I don't have enough knowledge to know if they are or not, but certainly for us at Stora, there's a real interesting area here about using data to sort of drive this process and help self-storage operators, make those decisions in a more timely fashion and a better fashion to maximise the gains that you can get from occupancy and that type of thing. So I can see that data layer being a real important thing to implement. So collecting data, and certainly with products like Stora, we can collect and anonymize data to help all of our operators and push that information back to them again to help them, manage and run their businesses better,
For you said there from an operator perspective, we consult a lot with a lot of operators, and it's sort of astounding still to this day that amount of people who don't run their business from a yield perspective. So there's 2 parts that we always think to opening facilities, so lease up and it's yield management afterwards. And so many people are so worried about pushing up prices and putting price rises through because your costs are going up, etc. So the whole yield management side is so important for anybody who's getting more towards maturity, because it's the only way you can drive revenue out of your business, because unless you can keep building extra space. But it's a really key factor, and I think that's one good point about the complacency. It's still, I don't think, managed enough and probably accurately enough for some of the we see.
Thank you very much. And on that note, we're going to end the panel. Thank you very much to the panelists.